Chapter 10, Looting. Now to our little problem, Troggs said. We want you to help with our work, so you have to be able to move around. But we don't want you running off, so you ought to be tied up. But if you're tied up, you can't work. What's the solution? Doon said nothing. The solution that first occurred to me, said Trogg, is to tie up your feet and leave your hands free. But then I thought, Trogg, that won't work. If his hands are free, he could just bend down and untie his feet. That was when I remembered some useful things we found the other day at a very interesting store. Where was that place, Yorick? Over that way, said Yorick, who flopped down into a flat, shabby armchair. He waved in the direction of Greengate Square. Funny place, full of a million little itty-bitty things, like screws and bolts and pins and nails and cords and buttons and knobs. Doon went rigid. That had to be his father's store, the small items shop. That was the shop he had lived over all his life until he left Ember. Yes, very useful place, Troggs said. Bring me that sack, Yorick. That one, over there. Yorick heaved himself out of the chair and fetched the sack, and Trogg dumped it out onto the ground. All kinds of metal doodads clattered out. Let's see, said Trogg. This might work. From the heap, he pulled a couple of C-shaped handles that might have come from cupboard doors. He pressed them together to form a ring. Just right, he said. Now we need 2 more. Here they are. And then some screws and bolts, and this piece of chain, and this nifty little padlock, complete with key. Perfect. Help me here, Yorick. Doon's heart was hammering. Shackled by a chain from his own father's store? No, he said. As hard as he could, he rocked the chair he was tied to from side to side, but it made no difference. Yorick held him fast, and Trogg worked. First, he clamped a pair of handles around one of Doon's ankles and screwed them tightly together. Ow, said Doon. The metal pressed against his bone. Trogg ignored him. He cuffed Doon's other ankle. Then he looped the chain through the cuffs and connected its ends with the padlock. There, he said, grinning his wide grin. It's just right. Long enough so you can walk, but not run. And not possible to undo, even with your hands free, unless you can find yourself a screwdriver, which you won't be able to, because we will be watching you all the time. Or unless you get your hands on this little key. He held up the key to the padlock, which you also won't be able to do, because I will hide it where sneaky fingers can't find it. Trogg untied the ropes that bound Doon. He tossed them away. Then he stood back and gazed proudly at his new worker. You'll need one more thing, he said. A light cap. I'll have Minnie make you one. In the meantime, you just stick close to my kids. He nodded to Yorick and Kanza. You two head out, he said, and take him with you. Pick up our bags from where we left them, and then start on that neighborhood there. He pointed over toward the school. I'll bring the wagon and catch up with you in a moment. So the 2 younger Troggs grabbed Doon's arms, and he stumbled along with them. They headed across the square and around the end of the gathering hall to Greystone Street, where they picked up the bags they dropped when they captured Doon. They turned around and started down Otterwell Street. The cuffs chafed Doon's ankles, but the humiliation of being a slave in his own city was far worse than the pain. He tried not to think about how impossible his predicament was. If he didn't know where the key was, how was he supposed to get out of here? He would have to count on Lina to bring help. And the very thought of Lina, walking alone, all the way back to Sparks, made him feel so anxious and so miserably guilty that his knees nearly collapsed. It had been a terrible, terrible idea to come here. He wished he had never found that wretched 8-page book. At the corner of School Street, Trogg caught up with them. He was hauling a wooden wagon behind him. Doon recognized it as one that used to carry garbage to Ember's trash heaps. Trogg poked Doon in the back. "Move along, Droon," he said. "Work to be done." Doon jerked his head around, furious in an instant. "My name is Doon," he cried. "Not Droon, not Doom. At least call me by my right name." Trogg backed away, grinning, stretching forward a big hand as if to ward off a blow. All right, no need to yell," he said. "Glad to see our new boy has some spirit." "I am not your boy," Doon said. "I am my own boy." Kansa, who had hold of Doon's right arm, sniggered. "A fighter," she said. "Isn't he cute?" She made a fake cute face at him, bunching her lips up as if she was going to kiss him, and squeezing his arm so tightly he could feel her fingernails through his sleeve. Doon told himself to hold his temper. Flying into a rage would help nothing. But it was very hard not to. They turned onto Murkish Street and trudged down the block. "All right," said Trogg after a while. "We'll start here." They stopped beside a stationery store that Doon remembered had been closed long before people left Ember. Its shelves held nothing but dust. "Upstairs," said Trogg, parking the wagon and leading the way to the apartment above. "Open everything," he instructed Doon. "Drawers, cabinets, cupboards, closets, everything. Pull all the stuff out, and we'll sort through it. Any eyeglasses you find, give them to me. I collect them." "Why?" asked Doon. "Because I want perfect vision, of course," he said. "Not that there's anything wrong with my vision. But with the right pair of glasses, you can see for miles. Sometimes you can see in the dark. I just haven't found the right ones yet. Now get busy." Doon followed instructions. Out came the possessions of whoever had lived here. Sweaters, coats, mittens, scarves, underwear, teacups, soup spoons, knitting needles, salt shakers, bed pillows, bars of soap, and the three Troggs pawed through it. Kansa tried on clothes and looked at herself in the mirror. "Would this look good on me?" she said. "Or maybe this." "No more clothes," bellowed Trogg. "You've got enough." Yorick had a comment about everything he picked up. "This is a good knife. I'll keep it." He stuffed it into his bag. "These cups are useless. We already have some just like them." He tossed them away, one after another. Some rolled into a corner. Some shattered on the floor. "Look at this ugly shirt. Who would have worn this?" He wadded it up and pitched it across the room. In the kitchen, Troggs snatched up anything that looked edible and crammed it into his bag, sweeping the rest off the shelves. Empty cans and bottles and boxes fell to the floor, bouncing and breaking. Doon noticed that his family had still had a fair amount of food when they had left the city, enough to keep a family in Sparks going for several days at least. He made a mental note. There might be many houses the Troggs had not yet looted. "All right," cried Trogg finally. "We're finished here. Load the stuff in the wagon and on to the next." It was like this the rest of the day. Doon followed along as they looted the homes and businesses of his former friends and neighbors. As they left each place, kicking aside the mess of scattered and broken belongings, Doon said a silent apology to the people who had lived there. They would never know their homes had been robbed and wrecked, nor would they know he had watched it being done. But even so, he felt sorry and guilty. He hated being part of this. At the end of the day, the Troggs gathered around the fire in Harkin Square. They all seemed excited. Doon saw that they were building the fire up higher than usual, and that they'd set up a sort of rack at the edge of it. 2 piles of stones, with a metal rod stretched between them. A curtain rod, maybe, or a pipe. Yorick slouched up to his father. "Shall we go get it, Pa?" he said. "Sure," said Trogg. "You go too, Kansa, and help him. I'll stay here." Yorick and Kansa went to the wagon loaded with the day's loot and tossed it all out onto the ground. Then they went off down Gilly Street, pulling the wagon behind them. Doon became aware of Minnie, standing a little distance away, saying something in a trembly voice. Trogg noticed her too. "What, Min?" he said. "Speak up." She took a step forward and murmured some more, holding out a folded cloth. "Oh, the light cap," said Trogg. "Well done." He strode over and took it from her and handed it to Doon. "This is for you," he said. "Get one of those candles over there and stick it in this part." He pointed to the tube at the front. Doon fetched a candle from a box of them behind the armchair. He held it to the fire to light it, and he put it in the cap and then put the cap on his head. It fit well and gave a useful amount of light. He wondered why no one in Sparks had yet thought of such a thing. "Cans and Yorick will be gone a while," Troggs said. "In the meantime, you can help get us ready." He picked up a bucket and handed it to Doon. "We're going to need some more water. See that brown door over there? The one on the corner?" He pointed at an apartment on Gilly Street. "That's ours. Go upstairs and fill a bucket." Doon was puzzled. "Upstairs? But—" "Aha," said Trogg. "I know what you're thinking. When I first came to this place, I couldn't figure out where the water came from either. I knew they must have had it. They had sinks, they had bathtubs, but where did the water come from?" "From the river," Doon thought. "It was a good thing we brought some bottles of water with us," Trogg said, "because it took us a couple of days of exploring to find it. But we did. You wouldn't believe what we found." Doon waited. "An underground river," Trogg said. "Yes, it's true. We had to go down about 100 steps to get to it. Did quite a bit of unpleasant cleanup on the way." "Cleanup?" said Doon. "Bodies," said Trogg. "Must have been some sort of stampede there, maybe as people were leaving the city. Quite a few dead folks lying around. We dragged them down the steps and shoved them in the river, and it swept them away." Trogg shook his head, wrinkling his nose in disgust. Bodies, Doon thought. Trogg seemed to think of them as garbage, but they were citizens of Ember, people he'd probably known, caught in the panic of last-minute exit. Inwardly, he winced in pain, thinking of it. But Trogg was going on. "So the river," he said. "When this city was in working order, the water was pumped up into the pipes that led to the houses. Now, of course, the pump doesn't work. No electricity." He divided up the syllables in case Doon had trouble understanding the word. "Have you ever heard of electricity? It's a kind of magic, very advanced. It's what makes the stars shine." "I know about it," said Doon. He bit his tongue to keep from saying more. "So," Trogg went on, "there was no way we could go down those steps every day and fetch up buckets of river water. I thought we were going to have to give up the whole project and leave. Then I remembered about the breathing." He looked up smugly at one of the street lamps, as if he himself were responsible for its occasional glow. "When the electricity comes on," he said, "the pump comes on too, right? Sometimes for just a few seconds, sometimes for minutes at a time. So in our apartment, and a couple of the other ones on our street, we open the taps and put the plugs in the sinks and the tubs, and whenever the city breathes, the water comes out. Not exactly a gusher, but a good enough trickle. In a few days, we have water to scoop up whenever we need it. What do you think of that, huh?" "Clever," said Doon. It was clever. Trogg had a knack for figuring things out, Doon had to admit. And yet he did not see Trogg as a truly intelligent person. Trogg seemed to think that he knew everything, but, strangely enough, it was exactly this that made him seem stupid to Doon. A person who thought he knew everything simply didn't understand how much there was to know. Doon took the bucket and trudged away toward the apartment Trogg had pointed out. Behind him, he heard Trogg's voice again. "Hey, you useless flump, get a bucket and show that Doon where to go." Doon looked back. The thin boy had picked up a bucket and was lurching after him. Doon waited for him to catch up and followed him through the door, up the stairs, and into the apartment that had been turned into a dwelling place for the Trogg family. He knew this place. It had been the home of one of his classmates, Orley Gordon, and Doon had been in it a few times during his school years. The rooms had been tidy then, although shabby, like everything in Ember. Now they were almost unrecognizable. The Troggs must have searched dozens of apartments and dragged everything they liked best into this one. In the orange candlelight, he saw that the main room was crammed with furniture. There were 5 beds, 6 fat armchairs, a brown and orange striped couch piled with cushions and quilts and blankets, and 3 tables piled with dishes. Coats and sweaters and scarves and other clothes hung from hooks and were draped over the furniture. Countless boxes full of canned food stood in teetering stacks, the loot from a great many apartments. The boy was making his way through this maze of stuff toward the bathroom. Doon followed him in and saw that murky water stood in the sink and filled about half of the bathtub. They bent over the tub and scooped their buckets in. Doon took a chance. He knew that the boy might tell on him to Trogg, but somehow he didn't think so. "Are they keeping you a prisoner here?" he asked. The boy shook his head. "But you don't want to be here, do you?" "Yes, I do," said the boy, hoisting his bucket out of the water. He seemed barely strong enough to do it. His arms trembled. Doon reached over and helped him lift. "But they treat you like a slave," he said. "Wouldn't you leave if you could?" Again, the boy just shook his head. "If I could figure out how to get away," Doon said. "Would you come with me?" "I can't," the boy said, pointing down at his twisted leg. "I can't walk right." "How did you get down here, then?" Doon asked. "He took me on his back," said the boy. "Trogg? So he does care about you, then?" "A little," said the boy. "He's trying to make me strong." "But he's so mean to you." The boy nodded. "He took my treasures." "Treasures?" "Just some things I like, things I've been collecting." His eyes were so sad as he said this that Doon had to look away. He lifted his bucket, now full and heavy, out of the water. Why did he take them? "I was defiant," said the boy. Doon couldn't picture this timid little person being defiant. "You mean you talked back to him?" No, I just didn't jump up fast enough when he told me to." "What's your name?" Doon asked. The boy kept his eyes on the murky water. "He gave me a new name," he said. He heaved up his full bucket and headed for the door. Doon clanked after him. "You could help me find the key," he said. "If I could get this chain off, I could get away and bring someone to rescue you." The boy didn't answer. Water from his bucket sloshed out as he struggled toward the stairs. At the top step, he turned his head halfway toward Doon. "He put my treasures on the top shelf," he said. "I can't reach them." "The top shelf of what?" "In the kitchen." The boy set his bucket down, lowered his bad leg onto the first step, got his other leg down a little with a little hop, picked up the bucket and moved it down 1 step, and repeated this ungainly process all the way down the stairs. Doon followed. They lugged their buckets of water in silence, and when they got to the bonfire, they emptied them, according to Troggs' instructions, into a big pot, which Troggs set on the fire. Then they waited. The lame boy sat on the ground, leaning against a pile of sacks with his knees up and his chin on his knees. He stared into the fire without moving. Minnie puttered around making dinner preparations, and Troggs sat in an armchair, sipping from a cup of water he'd scooped from the washtub, and made Doon sit on the ground beside him. "The day will come," Troggs said, "when you'll realize how lucky you were to join up with us here in Darkhold. When that happens, we can get rid of this." He reached down and jangled the chain that bound Doon's feet. Minnie, who was going by at the time with a sack of potatoes, jumped at the sound. "Of course, we have to be very, very sure," said Trogg, "before that can happen." That would be one way out, thought Doon, to pretend that he was happy to be here and wouldn't want to run away. But it would take a long time to prove that to Trogg. Doon thought of Lina, alone now, and of his father, injured and disabled. He thought of the people in Sparks, who had so little to get by on for the winter. He thought of the ancient book about something meant for the people of Ember, something he was longing to find out. And most of all, he thought of the great sunlit world. He would rather be there and hungry than here and fed. There wasn't time to pretend he'd grow happy with the Troggs. He had to get away now. End of chapter 10. Grizz, welcome in. Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. You're a metal doodad. You can call him by the right name, Dude. He actually did call him Dude at one point. This is so relaxing. It's perfect as I work in the office. I know. I thought it was a perfect thing to do today. I mean, it's snowing outside. We woke up to snow this morning, and it's actually coming down. It's like a snowy mix, so it's not like sticking, like covering the ground, but it is sticking. And I was not prepared to wake up to white in April. I feel like it's been a long time since it snowed in April here. But it has happened. It's not, like, not normal, but I didn't want to see it. I did not want to see it. Because then it just means cold. Snow just means cold, and I don't want cold. But it's a good day. It's a good day, even though it's snowing. I'm happy I don't have to go anywhere, which is nice. I get to hang out with you guys and just read, which is pretty awesome. I'm not sure how many chapters we'll get through today. I figured we'll just kind of wing it and see how we feel. And then, like I said, I might do a puzzle after. We'll see. We'll see. But I think that would be fun. So, let me grab one more sip of my latte here. And let's keep reading. Chapter 11. The Shepherd. As soon as she'd waved at Doon and the lights had gone out again, Lina started on her return journey. The first task was to find her way out through the unknown regions, to the place where the path led up along the cave wall. Using her third match, she lit a candle and went back through Ember the way she'd come, repeating to herself, in reverse order, the names of the streets she'd traveled, and in a few minutes she found herself once again on the corner where the white rocking chair stood. That chair, she thought, must be here on purpose. It must be here to mark the place where you were to go out. So she ventured forward, stepping from the paved street onto the bare pebble-strewn ground. She moved slowly, keeping her eyes on the circle of candlelight beneath her feet. There was no way to know if she was walking toward the bottom of the path. She would just have to hope that if she went directly away from the city, she would come to it. She put one foot ahead of the other, feeling as if she had to push back a wall of darkness with every step. An empty can appeared just in front of her right foot. She kicked it without meaning to. Startled, she stopped. When she moved her candle a bit to the right, she saw another empty can lying on its side. She remembered. On the way in, they'd seen cans and broken jars. She thought they were just litter. But what if they were markers? What if those people who had taken over the city had put them here so they could find their way to the path? It made sense. She began to look for them. Soon, she saw that each bit of junk was just a few steps beyond the last. Every time she came to one, if she took 4 or 5 steps beyond it, she would see the next. In this way, she arrived after a while at the spot she dreaded most, the plank bridge that crossed the chasm. She stood for quite a while, just looking at it. The two splintery boards, reaching out into the dark, and the ghastly drop below. I can't do it, she thought. I have to turn around and go back and try to rescue Doon some other way. But there was no other way, she knew that. She would have to reach into herself and find the courage to cross that bridge. It must be there somewhere. She closed her eyes, felt her heart beating, felt her feet planted firmly on the rocky ground. She tried to find her best self, and she remembered. She was fast. She was sure-footed. These narrow boards would be nothing to her if they lay across a stream, or even stretched from the roof of one building to the roof of another. It wasn't the bridge that scared her. It was what lay beneath. She would have to block the pit of bones from her mind and be her messenger self again, stopping at nothing to make an urgent delivery. She took a long breath, gripped her candle, fixed her eyes on the boards, and stepped onto them. Without pausing for even a second, she sped across the pit with a swift, steady stride. When she reached the other bank, she ran a few steps and then stopped, breathed again, and waited while her heart crashed around in her chest and her whole body trembled. Then she went on her way, and before too long, she came to the place where the path began to slope upward along the cave wall. It was a lonely, frightening walk, but almost easy compared to getting across the pit. Halfway up, when she was so high that she was once more looking down at the spot of fire glowing in the center of the city, her candle burned low and grew too warm to hold. She jammed it into a crack in the rocky wall beside her, and with shaky hands, she pulled another candle from her pack and held its wick to the flame. Here, on this uneven ledge, with a steep drop inches away, she did not want to be left in total darkness even for a moment. The climb seemed endless. Her legs began to ache, and the sound of her own hard breathing filled her ears. All the way, the image of Doon captured and tied up stayed with her. A terrible picture burned into her mind. She should have paid attention to her bad feeling about coming here. It was a mistake, a dreadful mistake. But there was no point in thinking about that now. She was coming to the top of the path at last. She could tell by how far above the spot of light she was. And sure enough, a few more steps and she found herself on the ledge, with the entrance to the passage on her right. She sidled through and came out into the clean, cold air of the upper world. The sun, low and red in the sky, blinded her for a moment. She could tell that it was late afternoon, maybe 4 o'clock or even later. Not much daylight was left. Could she find her way back to Sparks in the dark? She couldn't bear leaving Doon a prisoner a second longer than she had to. She imagined how desperate he must be feeling. He wouldn't even know if she'd got out safely of the cave. He might think she'd fallen into the pit, or slipped off the edge of the path on the way up. She had to hurry. So she retrieved the rolled-up blankets and supplies they'd left between the rocks, and stuffed them into her pack. She began to walk, heading down around the mountain the way they'd come. She'd gone no more than 20 steps when exhaustion washed over her like a wave. Her legs wobbled, her head felt heavy. There was no way around it. She would have to rest before she could go on. She staggered a little farther and made it to the main cave entrance. Inside, she threw a blanket on the ground, flopped down upon it, and went instantly to sleep. When she awoke, the daylight was nearly gone, and somewhere, not far away, someone was shouting. Lina scrambled to her feet, snatched up the blanket, and hurried out into the open. There, she saw a startling sight. A tented wagon drawn by a scrawny horse. Beside it walked some sheep and a shepherd who Lina recognized right away. It was the roamer who had come to Sparks. "Hey," the shepherd shouted, starting toward Lina, coming through the flock of sheep, poking them out of the way with her long stick. The sheep bleated and sidestepped nervously. Lina ran forward. Please help me, she cried. I have to get home. I have to hurry. In a rush, the awfulness of her situation came over her. Doon, a prisoner, the sun going down, the long walk ahead. Her heart began to hammer. The shepherd came closer. Her eyes were a watery blue in the red of her face, and her nose showed a network of fine red lines. Are you lost? Are you a runaway? She tilted her head and peered at Lina. Haven't I seen you before? Yes, said Lina. I saw you in Sparks where I live. That's where I'm going. I have to get there tonight. The shepherd poked her stick at the rear end of a sheep that had separated itself from the rest. Get back here, you filthy fluffball, she yelled. Then she pointed the stick at Lina. You, she said, are a foolish child. You can't possibly get there tonight. What are you doing up here anyhow, so far from home? The word spilled out of Lina in a rush. We came to our old city looking for things, but there are people living there, and they captured Doon. I have to get help for him. Your old city? Said the shepherd. Yes, underground. Lina's voice was shaking. Awful people have taken it over. Captured your friend, you say? Yes, tied him up. The shepherd crooked a corner of her mouth and shook her head. Up to his mischief, she muttered. Before Lina could ask what she meant, the shepherd turned away abruptly. One of her sheep was wandering off. She strode after it and gave it a whack with her stick to steer it back toward the flock. Move, Fuzzface, she yelled at it, and the sheep put its head down in a sorrowful way and trotted toward its companions. Lina felt more and more desperate. How could she get this woman to help her? She saw that lanterns hung from the front and back of her wagon. There was even a lantern dangling from the side of a horse. So maybe the shepherd could travel at night. Besides, she'd been to Sparks before. She knew how to get there. Could I go with you? Lina called, running after the shepherd, who was still dealing with the wayward sheep. Could you take me back to Sparks tonight? I don't travel at night. But you could, Lina said. You have lanterns. You know the way. I could, said the shepherd, but I don't want to. Too hard and too dangerous. Wolves out there, you know. I heard them howling just a little while ago. Besides, it's going to rain. She tilted her head toward the clouds at the horizon. Anyhow, I'm not going in that direction. I'm heading due south tomorrow. Just made my last delivery. She thumped her stick on the ground. He can get his own after this, she said. Mags is quitting. Quitting what? Mags, Lina assumed, must be the shepherd name. Quitting this job of food finder. I'm sick of it. It's cold and miserable up here, and nobody in the towns has anything to trade with, and I'm through. Lina was confused. Finding food for who? Shepherd flung up her arms, and her raggedy sleeves flapped in the wind. My brother, king of the underground, she cried. That's what he's made himself, and I'm supposed to drop down supplies for a few months and then go down there and join them. Well, I've decided I don't want to, especially if he's taken to kidnapping people. She shouted at her flock again, which had drifted away. Scurvy beasts, wretched meat brains, get back here. She flailed her stick at them. The horse lowered its head and ripped up a mouthful of grass. You mean, said Lina, putting all this together, that's your brother down there, that awful man? He's not that awful, Mags said. He's gotten too high and mighty, is the problem. Too set on having his perfect little world, all for himself. Lina was paying attention now. How do you deliver food to him? Just drop it down, said Mags, gesturing behind her in the direction of the crack in the mountainside. You may not know this, she said, but I am a kind and caring person. If I could, I would let my brother know he's just had his last delivery, and he's on his own now. But if you think I'm going down into that dark old cave to tell him, you can think again. Why didn't you write him a message, Lina asked, when you made the delivery? Write? Said Mags. I don't write. You mean you don't know how? The shepherd shrugged and scowled. Never wanted to, she said. An idea began to form in Lina's mind. I could help you, she said. If you take me back towards Sparks tonight, even just part of the way, I could write a message for you to send to your brother. No point in that, Mags said. He can't read. The wind turned colder and rustled the leaves of the trees. The red light in the west faded to a dusty orange, streaked with dark purple clouds. Lina thought fast. I could draw the message, she said. I told you, said Mags. I don't travel at night. But it isn't quite night yet, Lina said. We could go at least a little way. Not very far, said Mags. Please, said Lina. I'll draw a really good message for your brother. Watch, I'll do it. Lina pulled her pencil stub and a scrap of paper from her pack. I need something flat to draw on, she said. Mags unhooked a bucket that hung from the side of her wagon and turned it upside down. Lina drew this. There's a little picture in the book, if you wanted to know. It looks like the shepherd with her stick waving and going away from the crack in the mountainside with her sheep and cart and horse. And then at the bottom it says, Doon, out safely, heading home to Sparks, L. You put words on it, Mags said. I told you he can't read. Oh, said Lina, I forgot. Well, it doesn't matter. The drawing is clear without them. What do they say? The shepherd asked. They say, Brother, I'm quitting. Get your own food. M. Mags put a finger on the last letter. That isn't M, she said. I know M when I see it. Oh, oops, said Lina. I wrote it wrong. She added a big M right next to the L, thankful that her last name was Mayfleet. Now, she said, all you have to do is wrap it in a rag and put a rock with it and throw it down where you drop your supplies. Mags reached for the message, but Lina pulled it back. You have to promise to take me home, she said. Sorry, said Mags. The answer is no. I'm not going your direction anyway. I'm heading south. You need to go southwest. Oh, please, Lina said. It's so important. Can't do it, said Mags. I'll tell you what, though. What? You can walk with me until it's dark and then camp with me tonight. Sleep in the wagon out of the rain. But that will take me the wrong direction, out of my way. Not far, said Mags. It won't be more than half an hour before it's dark and we have to stop. It was so terribly frustrating. Lina wanted to go, to travel right now, but it was just not possible unless she wanted to risk never getting home at all. She would have to accept Mags's offer, even though it would take her out of her way, and she would need to backtrack some in the morning. All right, she said. She held out her drawing, but just as Mag's hand reached for it, she snatched it back again. Another idea had struck her. Only her panic had kept her from thinking of it before. That book, she said. That book you sold to my friend Doon. I'll give you my drawing if you'll tell me where you found it. Mags shrugged. Sure, she said. No reason not to if you already know about that underground city. Give me the message and then I'll show you the place. Lina handed it over. The shepherd went back to the back of her wagon and burrowed around inside. Lina could hear her humming, and now and then the hum became a song with a few mumbly words. It was the same tune Mags had been humming the first day she came to Sparks. The tune Lina had recognized from somewhere. What was it? When Mags emerged, carrying a greasy rag, Lina asked her. Oh, an old song that lots of roamers know, Mags said. It used to be sort of a riddle, but it isn't anymore, not to me. Will you sing it for me? Lina asked. In her croaky voice, Mags sang. There's buried treasure in the ancient city. Remember, remember, from times of old. What's hidden will come to light again, a diamond jewel more precious than gold. Mags grinned. The reason it's not a mystery is we found the city, me and my family, and we found the diamond too. Ha, so the riddle's solved. She tied up Lina's message in her rag, along with a rock. "I'll go toss it down," she said. She handed Lina her stick. "You keep an eye on those woolies. Don't let them stray." Lina watched as she trudged up the mountainside, toward the crack in the wall. She pondered the song. It was the one she'd heard from the roamer on the way back from her journey to the ruined city during the summer. The same song, and yet something was different about the way Mags sang it. The words weren't exactly the same, were they? Lina couldn't remember, but she was too cold and tired to think about it now. She crossed her arms over her chest, hugging herself against the wind, which was gaining force. If I'm lucky, she thought, Doon will see that message and know that help is coming, and I'll know where Mags found the book that got us into all this trouble. End of chapter 11. 2 chapters down. Okay, let's see. I just want to see how long the next couple chapters are. So we might get through either 2 or 3 more today. We'll see how it goes. Chapter 12, Feast Night. Doon sat glumly on an old armchair that smelled of ashes and watched as Minnie worked on the fire. She scraped at it with a rake that must have come from one of the greenhouses, pulling coals toward the rod they'd set up over 2 stacks of stones. Every time she came near Doon, she skittered past without looking at him, as if she was afraid he might stick his legs out and trip her. She fluttered her hands, patted her chest, and plucked at the hair at the back of her neck. She was the most nervous, twitchy person Doon had ever seen. Trogg directed her with waves of his arms and shouts. "More fuel over there. Bank it up here. Quicker, Minnie, stop flittering." Behind Minnie, the lame boy drifted silently around, fetching and carrying when she told him to. "What's his name?" Doon asked Trogg, pointing to the boy. "Skago," said Trogg. "He had another name, but I changed it to go with the names of my kids." He turned away from the fire and planted himself in front of Doon. "See, I've picked up a lot of information from the ancient world in my time. Want to know anything, just ask me. I named my kids after ancient cities. There was New York, and there was Kansas City, and there was Skago. Of course, lots of others. But I like the sound of those. Gave my wife a new name, too. She used to be Cora, but now she's Minnie, after a city called Minneapple. In those ancient places, Drood," he said, "there was power. I honor power. I draw it toward me, as I am naturally a powerful person." He stood tall and puffed his chest out. "I chose my own name," he said, "from the most powerful city of all, Washington." Doon remembered looking at the map in the book Edward Pocket had shown him. He was pretty sure that Troggs didn't have the names of the cities quite right. "In a book I read," he said, but Trogg interrupted him. "Oh, books," said Trogg, "used to be very useful." "Yes," said Doon. "So if you looked in this book, you could see that the cities' names were actually—" "I mean useful for fuel," Trogg said. "Pretty much gone now, though. We burned 'em up ages ago, where I come from." "Burned them up?" Doon was horrified. "Why?" "Because what's the point of them? Full of squiggles? People have a lot more important things to do than deal with figuring out squiggles. Matters of survival, Droon. But in books, you can find out what people have discovered. You can find out how things worked. And—" Trogg pointed a finger at Doon. "You listen to me," he said. "We know how things work. We don't need any squiggles to tell us." "But if you would just even read the names of the cities," Doon began. "We don't read," said Trogg shortly, "so quit yapping about it. We don't approve of reading. We stopped doing it long ago. It's a useless trick. Everything we need to know came down to us from our fathers and our grandfathers, and their fathers before them." Doon understood. Where Trogg came from, people didn't know how to read. He blinked in amazement, but he didn't say any more about it. Minnie bent over the pot of water, poking a long fork at the potatoes boiling in there. She seemed to be afraid of Doon. When he clanked over to look at what was cooking, she edged away from him, her hands fluttering at her throat, her face turned away. Doon went back to the smelly armchair and sat down to wait. Trogg bent over a box of stuff near the fire and burrowed through it, tossing things out left and right, muttering furiously. "It's not here," he said at last, resting back on his heels. "Minnie, where's that little bottle of salt?" Minnie and Skago were sitting facing each other, with a short board between them on which they were chopping up some soggy-looking onions. She glanced up at Trogg with tears dripping from her eyes and said, "It's upstairs, husband, in the kitchen." "We need it," Trogg said, glaring at her and Skago. "Of course," said Minnie. "We'll just put this down. Don't let that onion roll off, Skago. Hold the board steady. Whoops, the knife is sliding." "Never mind," Trogg bellowed. "I'll send the new boy." He turned to Doon and stared at him. "Go upstairs," he said. "Get the little green bottle from the table in the kitchen. Do not even think about touching anything else. You will be searched when you return." So Doon hobbled off toward the apartment and climbed the stairs, his chain clanking the whole way. He found the bottle of salt on the table and put it into his pocket. Now, he was alone. No one was watching him. There must be some way he could use this moment. Could he go out a back window? But with his feet chained, he wouldn't be able to land right. The 2-story drop would probably break his ankles or wrists. Could he steal something useful? Some kind of weapon? A knife? A hammer? But Trogg was going to search him. He'd find it right away. What else? What else? Doon swept his eyes around the apartment. The main room with its beds and couches and armchairs all crowded together at crazy angles. The kitchen with dirty mugs standing on the table and smeared spoons, and the cabinets full of bottles and cans. A thought came to him. The kitchen was where Trogg had stashed Skago's treasures. Up high somewhere. If Doon couldn't help himself here, maybe he could help the boy. Quickly, he flung open the doors of all the upper cabinets to see what was on their top shelves. Nothing in the first one, nothing in the second, but in the third, he saw a cloth sack way up on an otherwise empty shelf near the ceiling. He'd have to guess that it held Skago's little collection. He dragged a chair over to the kitchen counter. If his feet hadn't been chained, he could easily have stepped onto the chair and from there to the counter. But the chain made it impossible to separate his feet enough to get one of them up onto the chair at a time. So with both hands on the counter, he hoisted himself up, bending his knees until his feet rested on the chair seat. When he stood up and raised an arm, he found the top shelf still out of reach. He turned around with small clanking steps, sat on the counter, swung his feet up, and with some difficulty stood up again. This time, stretching his arm high, he managed to grab the sack with 2 fingers. He pulled on it and caught it as it fell. Once he was down again, he took just enough time for one glimpse into the sack. He saw something glittery and some papers, to feel sure enough that he'd got the right thing. Then he crossed the room with it and pushed the sack deep under the striped couch. Back down the stairs, the quickest way was to sit down and slide, and out to the fire, where he handed Trogg the salt bottle. "Took you a while," Trogg said. "Chained feet," said Doon. "You should try it." Trogg patted him all over to make sure he hadn't stolen anything, and Doon sat down again in the smelly chair and continued to wait for dinner. Finally, on Gilly Street, he saw the 2 lights that meant Yorick and Kansa were coming back. It was clear from their excited cries that whatever they'd brought with them was dinner. "We got it, Pa!" Yorick exclaimed as they pulled the wagon up close. It was just where it was supposed to be. A bunch of other stuff, too. Minnie peered into the wagon and nodded. "Mm-hmm," she said. "Yes, very good. Oh, very good." "So let's get going," cried Kansa. "I'm starving." Doon got up out of the chair to take a closer look. In the wagon, he saw some lumpy sacks and also what seemed at first to be a heap of wool. Yorick reached in and with a grunt lifted the wool in his arms. Doon saw a head and legs hanging down. A sheep, he thought. No, a lamb. It was smaller than a full-grown sheep. And it didn't move. It was asleep or dead. Where had it come from? Had they gone up out of the cave to get it? Yorick and his father laid the lamb down on the pavement, not far from where Doon was sitting. Minnie and Kansa stood nearby. From a bucket full of tools, Trogg took a couple of long knives, and he and his son set work cutting off the lamb's head. They cut off the 4 hooves next, kicking them aside, and then, with great wrenchings and gruntings, they peeled away the woolly skin until the lamb was a slippery red slab with stick-like stumps where the head and legs used to be. Doon knew that people ate animals. They never had an Ember. There were no animals there. But in Sparks, in the winter, his father had now and then brought home from the market some chunks of chewy, salty stuff that was called meat. Doon had been astonished when he was told it had come from animals, and he had been saddened as well. The animals were new and fascinating creatures to him, and it was hard to accept that they were killed for food. Now, watching the Troggs turn the lamb into meat, he had to press his hands against his mouth to keep from making a sound. While Trogg was cutting up the lamb, Yorick and Kansa heaved the sacks out of the wagon and opened them. Inside were a lot of potatoes with dirt still on them, a few big, flabby cabbages, and several smaller sacks that Yorick peered into, announcing the contents of each. Dried corn, some kind of beans, some kind of grain. Ew, mushrooms. Kansa held up a small rag bundle. "This was on top of the rest," she said. "It's tied in a knot." "Well, untie it, Pickle Nose," said Trogg, who was busy sticking the lamb's body onto the skewer over the fire. Kansa opened the bundle. "A rock," she said. "We have enough rocks, if you ask me." But something fluttered out, a scrap of paper. Kansa stood to pick it up. She squinted at it. "It's a picture," she said. "Look, Pa." Trogg came over to see. So did Minnie, hugging herself with her skinny arms as she passed Doon. Yorick peered over Kansa's shoulder, and Doon too clanked over to see. "There's words on it," said Yorick. "Someone else must have written them for her," Trogg said. "Strange. Why would she want words? Who would be up there, anyway?" "So what does it mean, Pa?" asked Kansa. Trogg took the candle from his cap and held it near the paper. "It means," he said. Then he was silent for a while. "It means she is going away." "Oh, alas!" cried Minnie. "Leaving us? For good?" "Well, who knows?" Trogg said. "Looks like it, though. She's waving." "But what about the words, Pa?" asked Kansa. "Pass it over to him," Trogg said, nodding toward Doon. "He likes to waste his time with words." Kansa handed Doon the paper. Silently, he read the message. "So," said Kansa, "what does it say?" With an effort, Doon kept himself from smiling. He could see that Trogg was listening, though he was pretending not to, so he had to think of something fast. He frowned over the words, as if he was having trouble making them out. The curly bits of the drawing were clearly sheep. The person who was dropping supplies from up above must be a shepherd. It did look as if the shepherd was waving goodbye. He thought of making up something that might help him, such as, "Release that boy immediately," or "Get out, bandits coming," but he had to make the words go with the picture or they wouldn't believe him. Best to play it safe, he finally decided. It says, "Goodbye, I'm leaving. No more from me." Minnie wailed. "Don't be an idiot. Troggs said. Who cares? We've got enough for a long time. Don't forget what we found the other day. Oh, yes, said Minnie, cheering up. What did you find? Asked Doon. A little hole-in-the-wall shop over that way, said Trogg, waving a hand. No sign on it or anything, put in Kanza. Nothing in front at all. Shelves empty. But the back room was absolutely crammed with good stuff, Trogg said. Someone was hoarding. Oh, said Doon, filing this information away in his mind. Excellent. All this time, the lamb roasted over the fire, and a smell that Doon found part sickening and part delicious wafted toward him. At last, Trogg and Minnie took the brown, glistening hulk down from its stick, and Trogg set upon it with a knife, carving it into chunks, which were snapped up with great gusto by his family, and bitten and gnawed until nothing was left but bones. They threw the bones in the fire and wiped their greasy faces on their sleeves. Doon ate the meat too. He was very hungry, but still he took the hot chunk from Trogg with 2 fingers only, like something dangerous or repulsive. It had a rubbery texture and a greasy taste. He ate every bite. End of chapter 12. I can't wait to see what actually happens and how Lina might help Doon, if he gets help. I hope so. Alright, let's keep going. Chapter 13, The Diamond. The Trogg family sat around the fire for quite a while after dinner. Their full bellies made them jolly in a rough sort of way, and they burped and chortled and told jokes that made no sense to Doon. Trogg launched into a lecture about the nature of the universe, on which subject he considered himself an expert. He said it was a perfect sphere, like a bubble, with the earth exactly in the center. The sky was exactly 100 miles up, he said, and the stars were lit by electricity. You probably don't know this, he remarked with a nod at Doon, but sometimes a new star shows up. I have seen such a one recently myself, a greenish star that moves. We all saw it, said Yorick, just before we came in here. Minnie murmured, Yes, we saw it, we did. Her eyes were half closed. She looked ready to fall asleep in her chair. Trogg went on for a while about how the moon was actually much larger than it looked, about the size of a wagon wheel, and how the earth, if you could view it from far above, would look like a vast dinner plate, exactly 1,000,000 times bigger than the moon. And the mountains would look like lumps of mashed potatoes, said Yorick. And the forests would look like spinach, said Kanza, and they both broke down in great guffaws. Finally, Trogg pointed to the hourglass, which was draining its last grains of sand into its bottom half. Bedtime, he cried. Minnie awoke with a start, and everyone got up and shuffled off to the apartment. There, Minnie hurried around sticking candles in cups and cans. Their orange glow cast flickering shadows on the great piles of stuff that cluttered the room. That's where you sleep, said Trogg to Doon, pointing to a brown and orange striped couch, which had a couple of blankets draped over it. Skago went from one bed to the next, folding and smoothing blankets. Skago hardly ever speaks, Doon observed. He speaks when spoken to, said Trogg, a good rule for everyone. I don't agree, said Doon. What's that? Trogg stopped in his tracks and put one big hand behind his big ear, as if having hearing difficulties. I said, I don't agree that it's good to speak only when spoken to. Suddenly Doon could feel his temper rising in him, like a spurt of flame, even though he knew that contradicting Trogg was probably dangerous. If everyone did that, no one would ever speak at all. What you mean is that people should only speak when you speak to them, because you're so powerful, I guess. Why do you get to be the powerful one? Trogg's face bunched up in fury, as he took a threatening step toward Doon. Everyone else suddenly stopped talking and looked up. Trogg paused. His expression changed. His mouth stretched into a smile. Dude, he said, That is a good question. What makes me powerful? I'll tell you. A powerful person is one who takes action. I have taken drastic action to make sure my family is safe from danger. A powerful person is one who is strong. You know that I am strong. Extraordinary things fall into the path of a powerful person. And into my path came this city, and something else as well. Without taking his eyes off Doon, Trogg beckoned to Yorick. Get the jewel, Yor, he said. We'll show this impudent mophead what we mean by power. Are you sure, Pa? Said Yorick. What if he... Of course I'm sure, Bone Brain. Get it out. Yorick went to the door of a closet, opened it, and reached inside. He brought out a bundle, wrapped in a yellow rag. It was about the size of a large potato. Yorick handed it to his father. The other members of the family clustered around, including Skago. Whatever this was, Doon could see that they were proud of it. Minnie pressed her hands together beneath her chin, and her lips trembled as if she were whispering to herself. Kansas smirked and slewed her eyes toward Doon, clearly expecting him to be awestruck. This, said Trogg, was waiting to be found for an eon of time. It was waiting for the right person, and that person turned out to be myself, W. Trogg. This is how fate arranges things. To the powerful person comes the extraordinary discovery. He began to unwind the cloth from whatever was inside it. Do you know the meaning of the word jewel, boy? Doon nodded. His heart gave a jump. Could this be one of the jewels mentioned in the Book of 8 Pages? Well, said Trogg, this is a jewel unlike any ever seen before. He let the cloth fall away, and he held the jewel into his 2 hands. Minnie, he called, bring a couple of candles here so the boy can see. The jewel was a deep, clear blue. At first sight, Doon thought it was a smooth oval, about 6 inches high. But when he looked closer, he could see that it had many sides, and they were flat, with angles between them. The candlelight sparkled on every edge. At the jewel's base was a golden ring, like a neck. Doon bent to look closely, and saw that within the glassy depths were thousands of tiny bits, like splintered blue ice, each one separately catching the light and making the whole jewel shimmer and gleam, a stone full of stars. It was a beautiful thing, and he could believe that it was powerful in some way. It seemed to enclose a mystery. In Trogg's big grubby hands, it looked all wrong. Doon had an urge to take it from him, not to steal it, but to rescue it. He reached out to touch it. Trogg snatched it away. No touching, he cried. Just look. Hands off. What is it? Doon asked. I told you, Droon, said Trogg. It's a kind of jewel. It's called a diamond. But what's it good for? Trogg gave an exasperated sigh. It's a marvel, he said. People will give a lot just to lay eyes on it. Someday, if we want to, we can trade this for just about anything. A stone house on a mountaintop, said Yorick, with land all around and a high wall, added his mother. Oh, such a high wall, she sighed and twisted her fingers together. And servants to do the work, and animals, and all the clothes we want, said Kansa. Doon wasn't listening. He was sure of it now. This was it. This diamond was what the book was about. A tingling wave swept through him, and for a moment he forgot to breathe. Are there more of them? He asked. Of course not, thundered Trogg. Want one for yourself, don't you? Well, you're too late. This is the one and only. Where did you get it? Doon asked. Just up there, said Trogg, flicking his thumb upward toward the blackness overhead. Right by the... Don't tell, cried Yorick. His father gave him a scornful look. And why not? Because it's a secret, Yorick said lamely. It was a secret, Trogg corrected. A secret waiting for us. It's nothing now, just an empty room. Outside, you mean? Doon asked. He expected to hear that Trogg had found it in the storerooms. Up on top? Trogg nodded. Built into the mountainside, he said, by the ancients. Probably this jewel was like a god to them, and they came there to worship it. He picked up the cloth and rewrapped the diamond. Do you know what a god is? He said to Doon. Doon said he did not. A god is the most powerful person there is. A god can rule an entire city or an entire world. A god has riches, including jewels. So, he grinned. His chin jutted out and his chest swelled. Who does that remind you of? Doon didn't answer, but Trogg didn't seem to need an answer. He was quite sure the answer was himself. He handed the bundled-up diamond to Yorick. Put it away, he said. And you, Doob, don't think you will be left in here alone for even a fraction of a second. You won't have the slightest chance to get your hands on our diamond. I'm not a thief, said Doon. Trogg raised his voice. All right, everyone to bed. Minnie, you're on fire watch, first shift. Get down there. Minnie put on a coat and hurried downstairs. What's fire watch? Asked Doon. Watching the fire, of course, Trogg snapped, so it doesn't go out. It might be your turn someday, when we know we can trust you. Kanza went into one of the bedrooms. Yorick stretched out on a bed at the back of the room, and Skago lay down on a bed not far from the couch and drew his knees up near his chin. Doon took off his jacket. Reluctantly, he settled on the couch and pulled up the blanket, which stank of mildew. Everyone tucked in? Called Trogg. Yes, Pa, said Kanza's voice from the bedroom. Uh-huh, said Yorick, back by the kitchen. Skago and Doon said nothing. Just a word of warning to you, young Doom, Trogg said. No point trying to creep out of here in the night. We'll hear that chain going clankety-clank. He took his candle into the other bedroom. There was some rustling and creaking and muttering, and then the light went out, and the room sank into a darkness as black as the dread and despair Doon felt inside. Sweet dreams, called Trogg. Doon lay there wide awake. His mind went over and over the same thoughts, until he was afraid they were going to burn a hole in his head. How could he have been so stupid as to let himself be caught? Why hadn't it occurred to him that there might be danger down here? If he'd been paying better attention, would this have happened? Where was Lina on this night? Was she all right? If she wasn't, it was his fault. In between these tormenting thoughts, he kept picturing the blue diamond, which was meant, he was sure, for the people of Ember. It was beautiful and mysterious. It had a purpose, he was sure it did, and he was sure that Trogg didn't know what that purpose was. But I could know, Doon thought. If I could only get my hands on it, and really look at it, I could know. He turned over, kicking at the blankets that twisted around his feet. The chain clanked. Trogg's voice came in the dark. Settle down. I might be able to sleep if you take this chain off me, Doon said. No chance, Trogg said. Don't want you walking in your sleep. Ha ha. A long time went by. Trogg snored. A snort, a growl, and a wheeze. Yorick breathed steadily, whistling now and then through his nose. Kanza muttered in her sleep from the next room. Skago, on his bed a few feet away, seemed to be still awake, making whimpery noises. Doon thought maybe he was talking to himself, since he didn't get to talk to anyone else. Or maybe he was crying. Doon tried again to talk to him. Skago, he whispered. The whimpering stopped. Skago, Doon said again. Skago, answer me. From the direction of Skago came a tiny, frantic sound. Shh. Shh. Doon made his whisper even quieter. Do you know what that diamond is? No answer. Listen to me, Doon said. You don't have to say anything. Look under the couch. Sometime when you're alone. I put something there. The couch sagged in the middle. Doon twisted this way and that, tangling himself in the thin blanket, trying to find a comfortable position. He had to get out of here, and that meant he had to find the key to the chain that bound his feet. End of chapter 13. Oh, hang on. Hang on. I forgot to turn off the first playthrough timer. There we go. Whoops. Terror, hello, and Coco, welcome in. Happy Thursday. How are you doing? Firewatch, are we gonna find Dirt Reynolds? Heck yes. Ooh, let's go. I need to hydrate. How's everybody doing? Double good news. Yes, we have double good news. I'm betting the double good news is 500 followers hit and job get. Yes, those are the two good newses. I was wondering the second thing. Let's go. Also, Menacing Joysticks, thank you for that hydrate. Happy Thursday. I hope you're doing well. Disney would bet against that, though. Bet against? Ooh. I'm dying, but it's okay. Wait, why are you dying? What? No dying. No choking, no dying. Not allowed. Disney loves the betting. Oh, okay. All right, I see. So Disney's a gambler, huh? Matt also likes gambling. I guess it's a thing. Coco's used to dying. It's fine. Oh, I'm just exhausted. Lots of work. Oh, well, I hope it gets better. Work, like schoolwork, or just like a lot of stuff to do? Disney loves losing bets. Who loves losing bets? That's not good. That's not good. I'm like chilly. I wish I had my blanket in here. I could go get it, but that would mean getting up, and I don't really want to get up. It'll get better next month. When it's over, okay, manifesting good works for the next month. We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. We're putting it out in the world. At least it seems that way with how often he loses bets. Grab it'll be worth it. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It is cold today. It's actually snowing, which I'm not happy about. I thought the snow was over. It's spring. There should not be snow in spring, friends. That should not be happening. I think you're right, though. I think I should go grab it. Should we do it? Should we do it? All right. I'll go grab my blanket. And what we can do is we can go on this screen so that people can do some shout outs. Let's do it. Any mods and any VIPs, feel free to shout out your favorite streamers while I go get my blanket.
Yay, it's working. Can I just... What if we just put it on the ball? Does that work? Look at it. Oh my god. Wait. 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 Wait.
Cute pic of me right now. It's a photo of a garbage can with several pink glittery filters over it. That's a mood.
Being really mean.
Oh shit, didn't mean not.
Okay, so they did that. Oh my lord! What the? What? Did you see that? Holy crap! Oh, man, what was that? I found my Libra. My daughter gave me.
Have fun.
Mwahaha. Mwahaha. And we're back. And I have my blanket. Good call. Good call on the blanket. Good call on the blanket. All right. I think what we should do is read one more chapter. One more chapter? Yeah, one more chapter. And then maybe just do like a puzzle. I probably won't talk too much during the puzzle. We might have just like no cam and music. Or no cam, no mic. That's what I meant, is no mic. And just like vibe with some music and a puzzle. Your clip was, oh my god. Yeah, it was Undertale. It was Undertale. It was Undertale. Disney, please. It was Undertale. I love Undertale music. It's probably like my favorite thing. I think they're doing maintenance because I keep getting buffery. No, Lodi Circle. Uh-oh. That's not good. That's no bueno. I hope they quit it with the maintenance and just figure themselves out. Hang on one second. I'm just checking to see if I missed anything important. What the heck? It's telling me I should join a stream that I was already watching. What? I am confusion. Okay, that was weird. That was weird. It's like, go check out the streamer. It's like, well, I already was this morning, but thank you for the suggestion. Selfie of a garbage can, and you said, oh yeah, you did say that was a mood. Yeah. Yes, I do remember hearing you say that that was a mood. And it definitely was a mood. Oh wow, I forgot to send out my Discord messages. Whoops. I'm just not with it today. I'm just not with it today. Oh well. It's fine. It's fine. Today probably would have been the best day to do it and not forget, but my brain has just been overwhelmed lately. Overwhelmed brain. Check out this streamer again. Let's go. It borked, so I might have to lurk. No! James, welcome in. Happy Thursday. How are you doing? How was Silent Hill 2 yesterday? I saw you playing. How did it go? How did it go? Friends, go follow James if you're not already. Because if you're not, you're making some strange decisions. Alright? We are reading. We're gonna read one more chapter today, and then we'll maybe do like a puzzle, I think. We'll maybe do a puzzle. I'm gonna run it almost every day. I want that leaderboard. Wait, are you replaying it? Are you speed running it? Oh my gosh, I should watch. I should watch. Hope you're all having great Thursdays. You're speed running it. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine. Coley didn't even ask how Owlboy went. Listen, Terror. Listen, I saw you go live last night after I went to sleep. I actually fell asleep early last night because I was so tired. Listen, I've been having a whole week so far, and it's like halfway through the week, and I'm already, my brain isn't working anymore, okay? I've had a very overwhelming week. Lots of good things happening, okay? It's all good things, but my brain just is missing things, okay? I'm missing pieces. I'm a puzzle that's missing pieces. Tara, how did Owlboy go? Angry Angel, hello. Welcome in. Happy Thursday. Oh my god, you were playing Stray? I saw you playing Bug Snacks yesterday, and I was like, oh my god. So, alright, fun fact, friends. I didn't say this yet, but I just bought Bug Snacks because it was on sale. Alright, it's been a people have been telling me that I need to play Bug Snacks for a long time now, and I had it on my wish list, and I was like, you know what, I'm not gonna pay $25 for Bug Snacks, but if it goes lower, maybe. Alright, and so I saw that it was like half off, and I'm like, alright, I've never seen it go more discounted than that, so I'm gonna get it. I got it. So I was thinking I might play it soon, which would be really, really fun. I've heard only good things about it. Oh, you're playing Stray today! Wait. Angry Angel, have you played Stray yet? Have you played it yet? Was this, was third place, but then just got bumped to fourth, but I want first? Oh my gosh, James. Alright, everybody, manifest that James gets first. We're all manifesting it. Yes, Gully, I'm listening! You streamed after I went to bed, okay? I went to bed at like 10 o'clock, 10:30 last night, I think. And I heard, because I have a specific like notification sound for streamers, like when they go live. And I heard somebody go live, and I'm like, I bet it's Terror. I bet it's Terror going live while I'm sleeping. And sure enough, it was. Sure enough, it was. Bunger. I need to play this game. I need to find out why everybody is all about it. I need to play it. Oh, there's ads going on. Sorry. Sorry. Did you get to see me play yesterday? Bunger. I saw part of it, but I was so busy. I played it for like an hour. Oh my gosh, then stopped. Wait. Did my TDV ad? I appreciate it, but I still have plenty to practice to do. Aw. I'm doing a fresh playthrough of Stray, and I plan to finish it. Let's go! Oh my gosh, I had so much fun with Stray. I really liked it. I wish I could have been the black cat. That would have made it like 10 out of 10 for me. Sadly, could not do that, but bugger. Listen, I can't wait to play Bug Snacks and go, Niddler, because that was my favorite. I remember watching a little bit of when Terror and Carr played it. I didn't want to like fully watch because I knew I was going to play it eventually, so I didn't want, spoilers or anything. But that was my favorite thing that I ever saw, was the Niddler. And I thought it was like the best thing. The ads ended for you. Heck yes. Owlboy was a fine time, thank you. What is Owlboy? I don't think I've ever seen that. I played Stray. Oh, you played Stray for like an hour. Oh, okay. You've played Bug Snacks before. Okay. All right. On stream is my third. Okay. So Bug Snacks you've played. Stray. And you said Stray, this is your second playthrough? Is that what you said? Sorry, my brain is not working. Friends, the two good news, if you weren't here earlier, we have two good newses today to share. First I can't even talk. I can't even talk, and I still have one more chapter to go today. First good news is check out that follower count. We made our follower goal. So, you know what that means is that we're going to be opening a merch store. And I really would love if I could get it open by my birthday. I'm going to reach out to my artist, and we're going to figure some stuff out. And hopefully, I'm hoping that I can open it up by my birthday. Also, It's my first full playthrough of Stray. I bought Stray, played a little, then stopped. Now I'm going to do it. Okay, gotcha. Well, when you play Stray, I definitely would love to be there. Oh. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. All right. Interesting. Okay. Second good news. I know, I've been keeping everybody in suspense. Second good news is I have been promoted to full-time at the library. Let's go. I have a new job, friends. So yeah. I'm so excited! I have been waiting 3 years for full-time at the library. And now I get to have it starting on Monday. I get to start full-time on Monday. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. McClellan, welcome in. Happy Thursday. I wanted to make sure I typed it out to you since you said you couldn't hear. The new profile picture is so nice. Thank you. Oh, yeah, I forgot. I made a new profile picture. So many things happening. So many freaking things happening. I type nice. Coco, I speak nice. It's all good. Oh my gosh, I'm hitting my mic. I'm so sorry. I'm just so excited. Bots got lazy. Yeah, they didn't even say the whole thing. It was just like a little bit. Oh, McClellan, I hope class is going well. I know you can't hear this, but I hope your class is going okay and that it's fun. Remember like 2 weeks ago when things were miserable and you were sick? Now look, I know things were awful. Like 2 weeks ago, I was literally going through like the worst allergic reaction I've ever had. Then I got COVID. And now, look at me now. Look at us now. Lady the Widow, no, did I miss the good news? Me just slamming my keyboard in excitement. Lady, welcome in. Happy freaking Thursday. Listen, we can say the good news again. No more repeating the good news. We can repeat the good news. It's fine. How are you doing, lady? Welcome in. Welcome in. We're taking a little bit of... Listen, I can't talk today. Should I just not read anymore? No, I really want to read one more chapter. Sorry, I just got here. No worries. I'm just excited. I see you're doing well. Yes, we're having such a great day. So first good news is that we reached our follower goal, which means that I get to open my new merch store, which I'm so excited about. I just need to finalize, I guess, a couple things with my artist so that we can get some merch going. And I would love to be able to open my merch store like either on or for my birthday, which is in about a month. So that would be awesome. That would be so cool. But we reached our follower goal off stream yesterday because of our lovely streamer friend Jensen, which I'm going to shout her out one more time. If you're not following Jensen, go follow her. She is an amazing person, friend, streamer. She's actually streaming right now. Playing some Palia. And we love Palia. We love Jensen. So if you're not following Jensen, go click that follow button. She helped us get to our follower goal. It was her birthday yesterday. So happy birthday to Jensen. I reached my follower goal. That was her birthday wish, or one of them. So let's give her a birthday gift right back by showing her some love, clicking follow. And yeah, welcome in everybody. And also the second good news was that I got promoted from part-time to full-time at my job at the library, which I have been waiting 3 years for. I have been patiently waiting 3 years at my part-time job, waiting to go full-time, and I start on Monday, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. I had my interview yesterday, and then literally not even 10 minutes after the interview, they were like, so you got the job. And I was like, yay! Yes, so I am super, super excited. Thank you. I'm like, today's like the best day ever, so yeah. It's so good. And just like James was saying, like, we had such a bad couple of weeks not that long ago, and now everything is turning around, which is super nice. We did get snow this morning. So it's cold. It's cold and white, and is it still snowing? I think it stopped snowing, and now it's just kind of slush is falling from the sky, but it's fine. I don't have to go anywhere, which is awesome. Sorry for making you repeat. Oh my god, no worries. I don't mind repeating good news. We love good news. That's such a hard thing to get into. It really is. Nobody leaves libraries, but for some reason at my library, everybody has been retiring because like they're all kind of around the same age, so people are like retiring because they all kind of like started together, and so it's just like it's crazy. It's actually crazy, but it'll be really, really awesome. It'll be the first time, I think, in my life that I will be financially stable, which is probably the most exciting part about this. And I'll have benefits. I'll have actual, real, big person benefits. And it's so exciting. It's so exciting. My friend just tried to donate books to his local library, and they said, no, we only take new condition, otherwise people won't buy them. Oh my god. We take them as long as they're, like, in good condition. They don't have to be new, but they can't be, like, spilt coffee on and, like, peed on and stuff, you know? Because people sometimes give those, and it's just like, no thanks. Is library trying to sell books these days? Yeah, most libraries will have a book sale. They're not like crazy expensive, but the stuff that they can't like add to their collection, they might sell. He threw them away. He takes care of his stuff. They were in good condition. Oh, that's so sad. That's so sad. Why are people peeing on books? I don't know, Tara. I don't know. It might not be people. It could be pets. You know, it could be like their dog peed on it or something, or their cat. I don't know. Okay, so the book that I'm reading right now, it came in from donations. And so we have one librarian at our library that deals with the donations. She's the one who like accepts them or, you know, turns them away, adds them to our collection, or puts them on the sales. And this one she had thrown away. And it was the Britney Spears biography. And I'm like, oh, I wanted to read that. Let me just, you know, grab it. And I was like, this is in, like, decent condition. I don't know why she threw it away. And then the other day, I got to, like, halfway through the book. And just this powerful smell of... It smelled like potato chips, just reeked from the book. And it was so bad that I actually had to put the book down. I tried like spraying body spray on it because I was like, this is overwhelming potato chip smell. It's not. And I'm hoping it's potato chips, but I washed my hands after. And I'm like, maybe this was why it was thrown away. I'm just hoping it was. I don't know how you get potato chip to be like that potent of a smell, but I'm hoping that's what it is, and I might read the rest of the book on my Libby and not touch the physical book and just move it to the receptacle that it belongs in, possibly. That's such a good feeling. I would cry. I wanted to cry. I literally wanted to cry yesterday when all these good things were happening. It was good. But yeah, as a librarian, you should know. Listen, Tara, I'm not a librarian. I just work at a library, okay? There's a difference. There's a difference. At least it was the smell of potato chips and not pee, which is where I thought this was going. I know. Well, you know, it could be pee, and I'm just trying to give it the benefit of the doubt and saying that it smells like potato chips. I don't want to try smelling it again to, like, confirm. But that's what I was getting, and I'm like, I think it's more I'm hoping it's potato chips. Find me that way. I mean, you did just get over COVID. The smell could have been masked. True. This is true. It could have just been there the whole time. I don't know. Interesting thoughts. All right, friends. Shall we read one more chapter and then maybe do a puzzle? Shall we do that? Let's get in one more chapter. I need to head out, sadly. No! Well, James, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend if we don't see you. And thank you so much for stopping by. I'll leave it lurking, though. Wanted to come say hi. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I hope you continue to have a wonderful day. We'll see you next time. Maybe the potato smell is part of the Brittany life experience. Maybe that was her intention. I don't know. It's actually a pretty, I mean, it's not what I thought it was going to be. The biography is not really what I thought it was going to be. It's very, I mean, I'm liking reading it because I grew up with Brittany. She was my first concert. She was the first CD album I ever bought. So, like, I was, you know, I had to read it. But it's very, it's as if Brittany were telling it to you. And it's just, I don't know. It's not, I haven't read too many biographies, so it's hard for me to compare, like, what is a normal biography experience. While she reeked of taters, she shaved her head. I did actually get to that part yesterday. So that's the part I got to yesterday, was her shaving her head. Who knows? But yeah, it is very Brittany, I will say. It is very Brittany. I've only read, I think, maybe 2 biographies in my life before this one, so one recently and one when I was a child doing book reports. So it's kind of hard to really get a feel for it. But it's, I don't know. I kind of just want to get through it, read it, and then be done with it. But let me get another hydration sip of latte in. It's almost gone, which is really sad. But let's keep reading. As we're talking about books, let's keep reading. So this will be the last chapter we read for the day, and then we'll do a puzzle together and just kind of wind down. So here we go. Chapter 14, Something Strange. Kenny Parton wasn't feeling very good. He was a little bit cold and a little bit hungry nearly all the time. And this was disagreeable, but even worse was the general dullness of everything. School, where he went a few days a week, seemed like a waste of good time. Most days there were hardly any students. They stayed home to help care for sick brothers and sisters and grandparents, or to help repair leaking roofs, or because they weren't feeling well themselves. The students who did come often dozed off during the lessons. Still, the teacher, Enette Bullaware, showed up almost every day. For 3 hours in the morning, she told them stories from history or explained how things in the world worked. She had flimsy gray hair and a long neck and nervous hands that moved around in the air as if trying to draw pictures of what she was talking about. Today, she would say, we are going to discuss ancient forms of transportation. And her right hand, with its forefinger pointing, would travel out to her right side, weave back to the left, and move right again, in case anyone didn't know that transportation had to do with moving around. She would make a hand fly over her head when she talked about airplanes, and she would chug her elbows back and forth when she talked about trains. Their lesson that day was on appliances of the ancient world. They would learn about this, Miss Bullaware said, because someday they would learn how to make these helpful things again. Some of you in this very classroom, she said, might learn to make a washing machine, or a stove, or a flush toilet. "What is a flush toilet?" asked one of the smallest students. Some of the others snickered, but Miss Bullaware was not embarrassed by this subject. "A flush toilet," she said, "causes human waste to be swept cleanly away. You can see them in the rooms at the Pioneer Hotel. They are white, shaped like a very large bowl, with a sort of box at the back." She made the shape of a bowl with her hands, and then the shape of a box. "But how does it work?" said someone. "Water springs up in it," said Miss Bullaware. "The water carries away the waste." Her hands swept sideways. "And then where does it go?" Miss Bullaware looked momentarily confused. Kenny could tell that she didn't know the answer to this question. She could have admitted this, and no one would have blamed her, but she didn't like to appear ignorant. So she said, "It goes far, far away." "But how?" Kenny asked. Mrs. Bullaware frowned. "It has to do with pipes," she said, "and pressures, and electricity. In any case, it is too complex for me to explain to you." It seemed to Kenny that everything in the ancient world had to do with electricity. Whenever he asked how something had worked, cars, lamps, refrigerators, telescopes, the answer was always electricity. But then, when he asked what electricity was, and where it came from, and why they couldn't get it now, Miss Bullaware never knew the answer. None of his other teachers had ever known it either. Kenny figured that everything that seemed impossible had to do with electricity. He asked the teacher once if birds could fly because of electricity. "Of course not," she said. "Birds can fly because they have wings, and because they're alive. It isn't electricity that powers them." "What does, then?" Kenny had asked, but the teacher just shook her head impatiently. Another teacher, who'd read one of the books from the library Edward Pocket was making at the back of the Ark, said electricity came from lightning. "But how could you take a great dagger of lightning that lasted for only a few seconds and use it to make a lamp light up?" Kenny could not understand. He liked things to make sense, and electricity didn't. The only part of school he liked was nature. In nature, each student got one assignment for the year. You were supposed to observe a certain thing and write down everything you could about it. For instance, last year, Kenny's assignment was ants. He spent hours watching ants marching along in long, wavery lines. He watched ants carrying bits of grass. He found the ant nest and figured out that the little white grainy things were ant eggs. He wrote it all down, added a few sketches, and his report was put with the collection in the schoolroom. The year before, his assignment was bluebird with pointed cap. That was harder, because birds were harder to follow around than ants. And another year, he did strawberry plant, and wrote about when to plant these plants, how they grew, and how hard it was to keep bluebird with pointed cap from stealing them. The amazing thing was that Doon had done sort of the same thing back in the underground city. This was one reason Kenny felt so close to Doon. They were alike, at least in some ways. Doon had had a collection of insects that he observed and wrote about, but he'd had to leave it behind when he left. Kenny wished he could have seen it. He thought probably it was a masterpiece. Other than nature, school seemed confusing or boring to Kenny. He had learned to read a long time ago, but he didn't much like doing it. There wasn't anything very interesting to read, and he learned his numbers well enough, up to the part where you have one number on top of another one, with a line between them. He got a little lost after that. He was restless in school. The outside called to him, even in winter. On days when it wasn't raining, and when his mother didn't need him to help with some household task, he went down to the rain-swollen river and watched the water pour over the rocks. Or he went up into the woods on the other side and poked around, happy if he could spot an owl having its daytime sleep or a rabbit disappearing into the grass. One cold afternoon, he put on 2 sweaters and a jacket and went looking for Doon. Doon was kind of a cross between a big brother and a hero to Kenny. He hadn't seen him since the day after the roamer came, when he'd taught him how to make a whistle. It would be good to talk to him, Kenny thought, so he took off down the river road toward the Pioneer Hotel. The air was icy, but the sun was out, and Kenny moved along at an easy lope. He passed the ark where people were working to patch the broken roof, and farther on he passed some people combing through a thicket of withered down brown blackberry bushes, looking for the tiny dried up berries that the birds sometimes missed. He thought he would like to have some of those berries right now. Just thinking about them made him feel the empty spot in his stomach. But when he asked if they'd found any, the searchers said they hadn't. When he arrived at the Pioneer, Kenny went around to the back to see what was going on. People were at work destroying old buildings out in the churned-up field. Stacks of boards stood everywhere, and windows in their frames leaned against each other, and chunks of concrete and stones were heaped in mounds like small hills. When spring came and the weather was more reliable, these materials would be used, along with mud and straw bricks, to build the houses so badly needed by the people still living in the decrepit hotel. Kenny trotted around looking for Doon. He didn't see him. Sag Merrill was out there, lugging a big heavy beam across the sodden ground, his breath puffing clouds into the air. The boy named Chet Nome was there carrying buckets of nails, and even the fragile little Miss Thorne, who had been a teacher in Ember, was out there wearing overalls and a big quilted coat, helping to lay string along the ground to mark the outlines of the future houses. Kenny wandered around, watching all this, and finally he saw Doon's father over by the hotel's back door. A big tub of nails and bolts and washers and things was beside him, and he was sorting those things into piles with his left hand. His right hand was all bandaged up. Kenny went up to him. "Hi, Doon's father," he said. "Hi, Kenny." Loris Harrow looked up from his work and smiled. "What happened to your hand?" Kenny asked. Doon's father explained. "Is it better?" Kenny asked. "I think so," said Doon's father. "It feels a little sore and swollen, but I guess that's to be expected." "I'm looking for Doon," Kenny said. "I can't find him." "That's because he isn't here," said Doon's father. "He's staying up at Dr. Hester's house this week, helping out. He left yesterday." So Kenny turned around and started up the river road again, heading for the other end of the village. He moved along idly, stopping to observe a beetle lying on its back with its legs waving. He turned it over with a twig. And to pick up a blue feather that wasn't too muddy, and to pitch a rock as far as he could throw it out into the field. He saw a few people down by the river. They had poles with them. They'd be hoping to catch fish. By the time Kenny got to the doctor's house, it was late afternoon. In the courtyard, Torin was sitting on a bench in a patch of sunlight. He was playing with one of his treasures, a toy airplane, making it climb and dive into the air. Poppy stood by his knee, breaking a twig into pieces. She was so bundled up that she looked like a small puffy package with feet. "Hi, Torin," Kenny said. "Is Doon here?" "No. Why? Would he be?" "He's probably down working at the Pioneer the way he always is." "Nope," said Kenny. "I looked for him there. Where's Lina?" "She's down there too," Torin said. "They needed some extra help, so she went. For 3 or 4 days. I think she was tired of being here and wanted a big change. Maddie came up to stay with us. She's in the kitchen making soup." "Oh," said Kenny. He thought about this. He could tell that someone had the facts wrong, but he wasn't sure who. Poppy pulled on his sleeve. "I braked the stick," she said. "You did," said Kenny. "Good girl." He patted Poppy's head. "How long has Lina been gone?" "I don't know." Torin sent his airplane into a steep dive. "Just a couple of days, I think." "Why?" "Oh, nothing. I just wondered why. I just think it's kind of strange that... Oh, well, never mind. I have to get going now." "Going where?" said Torin, putting his airplane down. And what's strange? The door of the house opened just then, and Mrs. Murdo came out. There were stains on her shirt, and her hair straggled. Kenny could tell she was tired. "Hello, Kenny," she said. "Poppy, it's much too cold for you to be outside. Time for you to come in. You too, Torin." "I'm not cold," Torin said. Mrs. Murdo shrugged. It was clear she was not up to arguing with him. "Come in when you are, then," she said. She took Poppy's hand, and they went back into the house. "So, I'm going," said Kenny. "Bye." "But where are you going?" "Nowhere, just back into town." "Can I come with you? You can tell me what's strange." "No," Kenny said. He wished he hadn't said a thing about it. "I'm just going home. I can't be late for dinner." "No one ever tells me anything," said Torin. He glowered at Kenny, but Kenny ignored him and went back out onto the road. He puzzled over what he'd heard as he walked toward town. Doon's father thought Doon was at the doctor's house, but he wasn't. Torin thought Lina was at the Pioneer, but as far as Kenny could tell, she wasn't. What did this mean? He concentrated hard on figuring it out and did not hear the steps behind him. End of chapter 14.